Diana Kennedy, we have to brag on you because this car, this 87 911 Turbo, is getting
Correct.
so much attention here at the World of Wheels, and you're surrounded by these newer cars, the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, and Porsches.
Yes.
But look at your car, people are loving it. Why do you think people love it so much?
It's timeless. It's one of those designs that just never gets old.
Yes, I agree with that,
it's-
100%.
Yeah, and what's really funny about it is I can't tell you how many times somebody's come up to me and said, "That's the car that I had on my wall."
Oh, no kidding. Listen, I was over getting some shots of it, and a guy came up and said when he was a teenager, same thing.
Yes,
Isn't
exactly.
that something?
Yeah,
I
no,
love that
it's
story.
funny.
Yeah.
It is. It's just it's classic German craftsmanship. It's like I said, it's incredible styling, and it's just a beast of a car. It's just.
But you drive it like a beast. I hear you're an incredible driver. This is not a car going to the shopping center.
No, it's not.
Tell me a little bit about its race history and your race history.
So the car's race history was all my late husband,
Rick
Rick Tier. Yes, he again bought it in '87, bought it in '88.
So it was a year old.
It was a year old. Yeah. So he bought it from a gentleman out of Florida. I haven't found that information yet, so I don't know about that.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, bought it as a year old. Did the slant nose conversion with classic car motoring here in town.
Okay.
And then proceeded.
So it was what did you call it, a bubble eye or something like that?
No, so yeah, it was born a bug eye.
Bug eye.
Yeah, so the 911s from back in the 80s.
Yeah.
It was in 70s and 80s and on through up until you get into like the 996. They had the headlights that were integrated into the fenders. So that's the way this came from the factory. And there were only 1,000 slant nose factory made cars like this. This was built to factory specifications. So, I mean, if you didn't know what you were looking at, you wouldn't know this was not done by the factory. But he loved this style. It was something he always wanted.
Yeah.
So, again, he and Jeff Baggett, they came up with this.
Okay.
And Jeff did a beautiful job with it. But he then proceeded to get into club sport racing with the Porsche Club. So he club sport raced this for probably a good, 15, maybe 20 years. I still haven't found the cutoff date on that yet. But yeah, I've got photos of him, out at Road Atlanta. There's several tracks around the United States that he took it to and club sport raced it.
When we were chatting earlier, you're talking about what did you terminology for a female racing club or an all-girls club or something like that?
I was talking about so I've gotten into doing endurance racing, and again, that was something that Rick had inspired me to do. So we had known each other for 10 years before we finally started dating, and one of the first things that occurred was he did the chump car race out at Barber's.
Okay.
And it's an offshoot from Lemons Racing, and it's where you take a cheap car and you fix it up and you go out and you try and endurance race it. And Chump Car has been renamed. They're now Champ Car.
Yeah.
And there's another series that offshoot from that called Lucky Dog. Mm-hmm. Well, this past December, I put a team together and we went out and did a Lucky Dog endurance race. We did it in a Volkswagen GTI that belonged to a friend of ours. Mm-hmm. And so it was me, Mike Nail, who was one of our mechanics and has worked on this car for years, Paul Hood, who's also a brilliant technician and was great racing teammate, and Scott Watson, who owns the car. But talking about female racing, my goal is to eventually get my stepdaughter and my step granddaughter and maybe a couple other female racers together and have an all girls team. Because I enjoy this and I have fun with it, but I've really enjoyed watching, like I said, the next generation of tiers coming along and learning this as well. So,
I love that. And I think that's great for women to know that there's big room for them when you're opening the door.
Very much
now,
so.
You also told me about a publication. They do video editions year-round, but once a year they do a publication. What was that?
Okay, so Road Blitz magazine does an online publication, and it's really neat. That's how several of the photos that are on my poster board here are from that article. And it was one of those things where I think it was a Mob Inc. Event that I was at, and a gentleman came up and he said, "I'd really love to photograph your car." And of course, I hadn't done anything like that yet, so I had no idea what to expect. But I was like, "Sure, why not?" What this gentleman came up with was just extraordinary, and it's he sent me like 127 photos that were just unbelievable. And during the course of the photo shoot, he handed me his phone, and I obviously have the gift of gab, so I was just rattling on. But he was asking me again, about the history of the car, the history, of Rick Tier, and the ongoing history of what we're continuing to do. Like I said, his daughter and granddaughter and I. Well, over the course of that, Luke, when he put the article together, wrote this article to accompany his photo shoot, and that got published online. And the publication does one printed copy per year, and they go through and they take the best of the best throughout the year, and this got included in that. So I'm very grateful for that, because I got a couple of those in the mail the other day, and it just gives me chills.
You should show it off. I think you should be very proud. Yeah.
I will.
And then, could we go around to the back of the car and take a look at that engine? Because what's really cool is she doesn't just drive it; she does the gear work on it too. You're going to be wrenching on it. Right?
Yes, we're about to do that. Yes.
Okay.
So anyway, back in '93, Rick and his son Michael were doing a Porsche Club driver education event out at Little Talladega. Different names for that: TIG Pre, TGPR. Anyway, and they. I don't remember exactly what they did. I think it slung a bearing, or maybe it was an engine rod. I don't remember what the issue was, but suffice it enough, it had to be, carried home on the back of a wrecker.
Okay.
But so at that time, Eurasian started dipping into the motor and making some. That was when the first round of modifications started happening with this, and then over the years, as Rick continued to Club Sport race this, he started making other modifications. So he made modifications to the motor. He added the 3-piece race wheels from HRE. This deck lid is actually from a 993 GT2. These are actually pretty rare, and the gentleman he bought this from is Kevin Buckler, who owns TRG Racing, who won Le Mans back in, I think it was 2002.
I love the way you say it too.
Thanks. Well, and back when he bought this from Kevin was nobody. He just was a guy selling parts out of the back of his truck to fund his hobby. So, but anyway, so. Over the years, there's another gentleman, Galen Bridges, over in Georgia, that did another, several modifications to the motor. So it's been pretty heavily massaged. There's been it has a lot more horsepower and torque than it had previously. We've got the aftermarket intercooler, which is, this thing actually has 11 quarts of oil to keep it cool. Well, I mean, because when you're out there tracking it, the last thing you want is to have the engine, oil starved and potentially torpedo on you. But it is still original air cooled and CIS injection, the CIS.
You'll be involved with the removal and whatever else you're going to do, clutch work.
I'm super excited. I've got a shop at home where I can actually work on stuff, and the gentleman who did a lot of this work back originally in '93 is Mike Nail. He's still here in town, and he's also one of my racing team partners.
Oh, okay.
But we were talking about the fact that I needed to rebuild the clutch on this, and if I'm going to do that, then we probably should go. We got to pull the motor anyway to get to all of that, and when we do that, we really need to dive into it, because he's rebuilt a couple other 930 turbo motors, and he's already kind of seen the after effects of so many years. And like I said, it's been since '93 since this was actually fully torn down and gone through. So
you're looking forward to doing that?
I am. I'm really looking forward to it. I mean, I know the basics. I definitely can do brakes, and you need a.
That's pretty good.
Something, whatever,
that in itself is good.
But and I mean, getting into the clutch, I can do that to an extent. But having the opportunity to do a full teardown, look at what needs to be addressed, replacing all the seals, but also learning. I'm super excited about learning about this. So what I've ended up doing is I have started an Instagram page for the car. I am going to be inviting people into the shop to photograph and help document the process, so that I can show off to the world what it's like to do something like this.
That's great.
I mean, not for the faint of heart, definitely not for your, shade tree mechanic, obviously, but under Mike's tutelage, we're going to be doing this together, and I'm super excited about it.
I'd like to learn what I can from it.
Exactly.
Now, the Instagram page is up now or not?
It is, yeah. I've got it live. It's that.cool.930. Why not?
Beautiful
Because every
car.
time somebody comes up, it's like, oh, that's such a cool 930. It's like, well, yes, it is. So.
Well, I'm so excited to learn of all the things you're doing, and that you're a hell of a racer.
Thank you. Well,
keep it up.
Thank you. I appreciate it very much. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to bringing the next generation along with me. So
you're going to do it.
Thank you.